2024 meeting, and then a copy of said resolution will be presented to Grace. There she is. Discussion. Jackie.
I know I mentioned this before, but I sat in the same position as you in high school as a board member, as a student, and I just think it's so important that the student perspective we share. And I so appreciate you being here, being so transparent with how everybody was feeling throughout the school year, what the kids' perspective was, and I just think it's such an important thing that you're here, and I wish you so much luck in the upcoming years and your future endeavors, and so glad to have gotten you. Thank you.
Yes, and
For sure, thank you so much. We really do appreciate your perspective and your willingness to share so that everybody can sit here and constructively convey what they're thinking and what the community is thinking. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
I also want to congratulate you and also point out too that this is such an important thing that we do as a community to have a student ex officio member on the board. So important that the state has come out and said that going forward, all districts should have a student member of the board. Having the student perspective is so critically important. Our student members have been wonderful. You've all, held yourselves with decorum, and our student leaders in a lot of cases have engaged and carried themselves with more grace and decorum than some of the adults in the community. So I can't express how much I appreciate your involvement, and I can't wait to see all of the great things that you do, all the places you'll go, and thank you so much.
Deputy Marcelo, Grace, thank you so much for your time and your service and your perspective. You're a role model. And, they don't, definitely students probably have no interest in hearing from us. My kids think I am so old. But they literally said it just the other day. They literally, so old, just like that. So having somebody who, is relatable, kind of can illustrate that, what we're doing here is important, really. But they're not gonna hear it from me, they're gonna hear it from you, and they're gonna listen, so, it's a bridge between like the old people and the young people. I'm just very grateful for all your work. All right, all those in favor of adopting this resolution? I don't think that's Rochelle, that's unanimous. Yes. Now is our first public comment session for items on the agenda, but I still have no issue. Now we're on to the consent agenda. So I made a motion to pass the consent agenda items. Number.
Darn
it, the minutes. Why did I get that stuff? So I would like to get a motion, actually, if we can approve both minutes in one go. May 7 and June 4, Megan and Jess. Any discussion on both minutes, the 7th, 4th? No discussion. All those in favor of adopting minutes passed. That passes. Thanks, guys, you're keeping me on track. All right, finally, now. Nothing, I'm not skipping anything. Consent agenda, business, personnel, and special education. I'm gonna give a motion to Megan first, and the second, to approve the very long list of consent. Oh, Michelle, you have your, I didn't see that. Okay, Michelle, seconds. Discussion. There's a lot there. Go ahead, Jesse.
I have a few things. I just want to acknowledge, we had a few nice donations. I want to thank the Averill Park Education Foundation for their educator enrichment support. I want to thank the Averill Park Booster Club for their items donated, especially the memorial bench in the name of Alex Holcomb. I would also like to thank the Posting Hill PTA for their donation for the playground, and I'd like to thank Jamie Kendrick for establishing the Roxanne Ryan Memorial Scholarship. All those are wonderful things, and we appreciate that.
Did somebody raise their hand? Everybody good? And hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of acceptance? Thank you, that is unanimous. We have a number of action items, A through V. I can get a motion to, if I can get a motion to approve these action items as a whole, A through V. Megan, I would need a second to approve these, again, all these action items. That's Jackie. Oh, sorry, Michelle. Okay, that is on the floor. Any discussion, items A through V, action items. Jessica.
I have some concerns about item B. So if we can just pull that from the other action items, if nobody else has any concerns about the others, A through U, we can vote on those and then we can talk about my concerns. Is that okay?
Okay, so do I need to pull that off and just,
Is there a separate motion to remove V from the original listing?
so why,
Yes.
yeah, so do, so
Yeah.
Jesse makes a motion to
To
remove
approve.
B,
Yeah, B.
to
To approve A through
approve
U.
A through U and remove B. So that's Jesse first that, Megan seconds that,
A through U.
A through
A through
U.
U.
Any discussion on A through U? Everybody good? Okay. All those in favor of approving action items A through U? Okay, that is unanimous, Linda. Motion to approve item B, action item B. That's Jesse first, and I need a second to put on the floor and discuss it. Jesse, okay, discussion on item B.
So, I think the scope for the fleet electrification plan is, well-crafted, but I have concerns about some of the definitions, or I should say the lack of definitions and the lack of clarity around some of the language in there. I can understand where we sit at a table, we talk to these consultants, they kind of give you the whole big picture. They put the pen to the paper and they give you a synopsis. They don't always, and then when you read the synopsis, you fill in what's missing from the discussion. And I'm concerned that we're not going to get what we need unless we update that scope of work, because some of the items and the definitions are sort of vague or not there. And if we don't have it in writing, they can just not provide that. So I have a bunch of smaller comments that I can forward to Carrie if she wants to take a look at that and talk with the consultant to update the scope of work before I would be comfortable approving that. Those are my concerns. I mean, I don't need to get into the specific details, but.
I'm just gonna say that I'm not comfortable approving it under normal circumstances, and Jesse's a huge proponent of this initiative, and if she's not comfortable approving it, then you're not gonna get me to approve it either, because I don't like it anyway. So if she's not comfortable, I'm definitely not comfortable.
I like the concept of it, to be clear, because I think we really need to have a really good plan in place before we spend, and what is it gonna cost us? $17,000 or a little bit less to do a comprehensive plan to spend. We're gonna be spending a lot of money on fleet electrification because it is a law. So I think we need a good plan in place. So I support the idea of it. I just think the scope needs a little bit of beefing up before I can approve it.
Do we feel like, we have time between now? What's the timing? Like if we take this off the table for tonight and bring it back up in July, that doesn't set us back time-wise in terms of making it happen this year?
No, because once it's approved by the board, then it has to be submitted through NYSERDA, and there's a waiting period until they review it and give it. And so none of the work will start until that process is complete. But the timeline was laid out within the document, and we still should be in the fall completion if we do it over the summer. So I don't think that would set us back too far.
I'm also interested because on the 4th, when we discussed the potential rollout of the next capital project, and I think I mentioned it related to the paving work to be done at the bus garage location. I'm interested on how the updated information impacts that potential. Everything has a ripple effect. So we can't do anything in this avenue without it affecting everything else going forward. So I want to know more about that.
So given that, A, we have the time, Jesse, we feel like, we could get a more robust answers to those questions. I'm gonna say, Sam, we definitely gonna, I definitely did not get what Jesse's, sorry, we haven't mentioned. I'm comfortable if we table this, or if we pull the motion off, and then if Carrie, if you think we can get something more robust in the time we have.
Yeah, I can reach back out to the contractor with detail the concerns, and I'm sure they'll respond.
I think the only thing we need is some information returned in regards to some of your specific questions. So if we can get that from Jesse, if you want to share it with the board or share it with us, just so you have your kind of points or concerns. That'll give Carrie something to work with.
Okay.
And then kind of follow up on if that makes sense.
Okay. I just want to go on the record, since I will not be here in the July meeting, I am not for the spending of any funds on the electric fleet. So I won't be here for that meeting, but I would vote no. So.
Okay, so given this conversation, we'll take this off the table for now. Does Jesse need to read?
Well, I think you have a motion on the table, so you probably have to so vote it down through that process.
So whoever made the motion has to withdraw their motion.
But if there was a second, right?
Well, I think you had the motion and you're in discussion. You're not voting it down, you're just voting to table it.
Yeah.
So you're essentially pulling the agenda from pulling the item from the agenda. So I think your vote is to pull the item from the agenda.
Right.
So do I need to
Jesse
add,
have
do I need to
amend
poll?
her motion?
Do I need to say all those in favor of tabling this until?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that. All those in favor of tabling this agenda item until the next meeting? Okay, that is 6. Any against? 5, no abstentions. Okay, so Michelle's a no. That is 5, 1. You got it. Parliamentary procedure.
And then just share concerns
And Jesse.
with everyone, that Carrie can use that to kind of go back and forth. If anyone else has concerns as well.
Okay.
In moving this along, item 12 is resolutions A through F. I would love to get a motion to, again, approve these items 12A through F, all as one, if I can. I know it's a lot, guys, I'm so sorry. There's a lot there.
I'll make a motion to approve items A through F on number 12.
First,
I'll second that.
Jesse seconds. Discussion on anything, 12A through 12F. Jesse.
So first I want to thank the student committee that led for resolution A, the new nickname for our district, because I think that was a heavy lift. A lot went into it, a lot of good thought, a lot of process, a lot of shifting when you got information, and then you got more information, and then you realized, okay, we need to keep digging deeper. And also in the face of a lot of folks who are diehard warriors, because I know we all hang on to our identity, and so I can appreciate that perspective. It was not certainly the district's choice to do this, but in the face of all that you had, I really appreciate your perseverance and the process that you put forth to manage it. So thank you.
Jesse.
I apologize because I'm gonna make this meeting drag out even longer than it's already going. I appreciate everything you guys did. I think you had a really hard task. I appreciate all of the outreach that you attempted to do. You know, I, part of me regrets doing this, but I kind of think, not that, I think you only get one shot at this. I would have made the parameters a little bit different because I think, while I don't agree with what we were forced to do, especially with minimal to no funding from the state, I think it was an opportunity to maybe get away from roles that were originally gender specific. So for that reason, I need to ask you to let us vote on 12A separate from the rest of the, I think you guys did a great job, and I appreciate everything you did, so please don't interpret my vote as anything other than that. That was not really. But I appreciate that the district gave the children the opportunity to get involved and to run it, and I think that that's a great opportunity.
So I need a motion and a second to vote on 12,
You get to do 12 then, or do something.
to remove 12 then. I'm just
Well, I think it's the on order, so do 12.
Okay, right, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, so
So I'll make a motion to approve 12.
Jesse, motion, Michelle, second, 12A. We can continue the discussion.
If I may, and I don't want to have the meeting go on that, but I always have something to say. The entire initiative is no secret to anybody that I think it's ludicrous that we had to do this in the first place. Interestingly enough, the word warrior is gender inclusive. That being said, Joan of Arc was a knight, fought for her country, bled and died for her country, so I'll take Golden Knights as a universal. I think if we're going to belabor the point, it would make no progress. And since this is what our community came together and that's what they chose, then that's what we are. And I appreciate all of the students that put in the hours and put up with the discussion and all of that, because as I referenced in congratulating Grace, I think the students really handled themselves extremely well through the entire process. So this is how it shakes out. So I would reference this as a cautionary tale. Those folks who are maybe unhappy with the outcome, that next time you have the opportunity to speak, don't skip it. Speak and be heard. And you know, thank you to the students and the community for whoever came out and expressed their opinion.
Anybody else? The only comment that I would make is that, again, this is, my fallback on the we all just sort of slide process and bureaucracy and procedure, and there's a place for it, and, it like Megan said, it's how it shakes out. We want to do things as fairly and as openly as possible, so, and, it's a collaborative effort, and thanks to all the work that you guys all did for this. Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
I just wanted to say that, it was a process, and I think it was really well thought out by the district. It's nothing that any of us really wanted to do. None of us don't want to be warriors anymore. We love it. It's how we identify. I understand both sides, I guess you'd say. However, I do think we had a great process. I think the students really did a good job getting the word out. I think the community was told on various different platforms all around town. You saw signs, SKU codes. We did our very best to involve as many people in the process as possible. I heard a lot of squabbling after the fact of people that never even participated in the process, which is infuriating. But I think, when people say just follow the process, we follow the process, and this is the way, like Megan said, it shook out. And I think the people who did participate are to be commended for participating. Their voices heard. That's just how it goes. So thank you again.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm gonna leave the boxes just one more time, is that, ultimately it's like our kids are blue and gold, right? And it's whether it's blue and gold, whether it's knights, whether it's warriors, whether it's tomcats, whatever, bobcats. Our student leaders, our role models, our student athletes, our role models, our art students, our tech students, that what we call them doesn't change. The achievements event that they do in their, over the 12 years with us, so, well done.
Going back to what you said before, presentations, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That song is never gonna leave my head. Yeah, so we're just still on.
You need to call up and leave that on his voicemail
Yeah.
so that you can,
Yeah.
take it with you.
Yeah, hearing no further comments, all those in favor of approving Golden Lakes Community Bank for Averill Park Center School District. That is, 5. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's 5 and 1. That passes. Items 12B through F is still on the floor, I believe. No, we gotta do it again?
I
Okay.
would make a motion to
Make a motion.
through that.
Through F. Megan, second. Discussion?
If I could, sorry, I can't shut up tonight, but I just wanna, because one of these resolutions, for the benefit of the folks at home, is to accept the results of the May 21st budget vote that came out, and it continues to plague me a little bit about the number of registered eligible voters that we have in the community, especially with all of these very important things going on, and the low number of voters that came out to express being for or against. And ultimately, it's not a matter of how many people voted yes. For me, it is the overall community engagement that we absolutely must have in order to know if what we're doing is right for you and your kids in your community. I will take this opportunity to ask for community members to please, be more engaged, come out and talk with us, come out and participate in these things like they're renaming things like Capital Project coming up. These are very important things to the community, and begging on hands and knees, please get involved and participate, and I appreciate it.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving 12B through F in the resolutions? That is unanimous. Item 13, discussion on the capital project. We have a special guest. Jim, I'm going to kick it to you.
Thank you. So we do have a presentation, few slides that we got. We
Post-presentation?
what's that?
Post-presentation, you have slides, or those from the presentation?
No, so a couple of new pieces of information, sort of an addendum to the workshop.
Okay.
So, because we knew we had some
I know,
information.
I know we're all that.
You want-
Even I even remember.
Next time I've heard that.
Oh, sorry.
You can probably give it.
I don't know. Yeah, I thought you were gonna present it.
I did.
Okay, this is quick update. So, there were a couple of items that you had requested follow-up information from from the June 13th workshop. So the first couple of things are that, when we presented this slide at the workshop, the question came up as why the jump from the 8.94 to the 2409, how come it wasn't just kind of like going up in increments based on the $10 million? So the answer to that question is aid caps. So on the incidental portions of the aid, they're capped. So when you move from the $19.9 million project, you can see, and I've got a bold EPHS, that's like primarily, that's the only one that changed. That level of project is a 97% aidable. If you go down to 39.9, it drops to 85% eligible. So then you can see your bond percentage changes, and that's why it's lesser amount. Or doesn't, it doesn't grow at the same rate.
Non-linear.
Yes, and that's really what's the cause of that. The other piece you asked was for medium taxable assessed value. So I did it 2 different ways. I pulled a database from from this current year, and for all the properties the full value amounts. I give you both the average and the median, and then the assessed value amounts. The assessed values are lower because of equalization rates. So that's the full value is essentially market value. And the assessed value is how the assessor labels your house, and then we use the equalization rates to kind of equalize it across all 9 towns. So that's the difference between the two numbers. Included in all the properties, we have a significant amount of vacant land, which drives that number down a little bit. So the second one is residential. So I pulled out all of the residential properties and got rid of all commercial, vacant land, public works, and you can see that the full value, your median is about $262,000, but an assessed value it's about $114,000. So the way that the tax levy works is we take all the assessed values, apply the equalization rates to get the market value. Then we calculate the rates. Then we take those rates, times it by the assessed value. So that's kind of like how the taxable part works. So that's why the two numbers are important, because if you look, it's like, oh, the average house in Averill Park can't be $138,000. It's not when you look at the market values. It's significantly higher, but we use the assessed values times the tax rate when we actually calculate what's on your bill. So.
Okay.
Are you posting these, the agenda or something?
Yeah, we're going to, they'll be in the board docs.
Okay.
They'll be on, we have a website section for the capital projects later.
And so just, like in kind of layperson terms, if somebody was trying to figure out, so take any member of the community, they're using, and we're saying it would be $75 per 100,000. That was correct. I don't remember the number, I'm sorry. I know it's just last Thursday. But, you know, say it was $100 per 100,000. What's that? $24, right? I knew it was less than what I was saying. So if somebody's house is 262, but they're using this, would they use the assessed value, the lower number, to figure out what their tax was? So they would be 20 some odd versus, okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's really good to know for people to make their own decisions for their
Yeah, so
households.
39.9 is $24.09 per 100,000.
Yeah.
That's the
I would say that's less than $40 for the 39. If your house was in the weekend.
annually, right, if your house is in that.
So some new information, something that came up as to whether we could come up with a combination of potential of all the priority ones and some priority twos. I will caution that these 49.9 and 59.9 is not done any specific analysis where we said, oh, here's the items we would tackle, just because there was not enough time between June 13th and then today. So it's just kind of an idea of like, okay, so if we added 10 million, up to 49 and then 59.9 to show you what that annual estimated impact would be. So you can see how that increases as we go up. Again, it takes into account those aid limits. And then lastly, I took the current year tax levy to say, because it's one thing to talk about the tax rate, but then the other piece is how it's going to impact your tax levy, because how you set the levy is essentially what's going to drive the tax rate. So the local share of the 29.9 million based on the schedules that we developed with principal and interest and then the aid on it, the local share on an annual basis is about $285,000. For the 39.9 million is $765,000, and for the 49 million, it's about a little over $1 million. So what that means is when we talk about those capital exclusions in the tax cap, we're adding those amounts to your tax levy because it's not covered by aid in any way. It's local share. That's what the taxpayers would have to pick up, and then that's what's driving those increases in the tax rates. What that equates to when we look at percentages of tax levy, again, it's based on 24, 25. So as the levy changes, these percentages will change. But this is as if we added this project this current year. That would 29 would add 0.82% to the levy, 39 2.2, and 49 3. So you can see the impact it would have. So when we go to set levies down the line, you could be looking at if you have a 3% already in place for your current capital projects plus your program, that those are estimates of totals that you'd be looking at that you'd be presenting to the taxpayers. So it's just another lens to look through the tax rate impact and the tax levy.
But that would still be the tax levy cap. We wouldn't necessarily be exceeding the tax levy.
We would not be exceeding the cap. So it would still be a simple majority vote, but you'd be presenting potentially higher figures.
Yep.
The other thing I did note though, down at the bottom, did come up with the last meeting, the future debt drop off. So in 30-31, it goes about 215,000, sorry. And then 30-31 is the 645. So within the scope of this project, because if you think the project is gonna start, those debt will fall off as when this is on the book. So there'll be some relief in a couple of years, but it might not line up specifically, but just to kind of, this is why we don't have debt dropping off before that to help smooth this out. It's gonna be a little further down the line, but
Essentially, the first year, we would have full impact, basically.
right. Because I think the schedule was through 2029, the work, so then be close to the first year or so. So that's just like some additional information we put together to kind of feel this conversation.
Kelly, I wanna go home and pour myself some wine and chew over it. Carrie, you guys are so smart. I did have something from Adam Jim that, okay for me to add that. So Adam, who regrets that he couldn't be here today, but he did, his question with regards to this was those items in priority to that big 59 million that was staring at us. I'm probably not gonna paraphrase this well, so Jen jump in, you saw it as well. Yeah, I guess so. There's a lot of other stuff on. So just in terms of including things in priority two, if the things that are described as critical maintenance, like needing to be addressed 1 to 5 years, if we put, are there things that are at the closer end of those priority twos, you know, that if we do put off, are they gonna get more expensive? Or, so something that is now 59 million could end up being 79 million because of the deterioration in the time it takes us to address them, or was that already built in? Jim, I think I can paraphrase that.
Yeah, I think his exact words were, some analysis on the estimated cost of doing the priority two things in 3 to 5 years. So to that point of deferring it, or is it going to just cost, it's going to cost more later on, how much more will it cost, will it be an impact? Is there a way to do some form of analysis on that? What's the?
So I guess how much bang for our buck do we get by trying to do something now by saving on future deterioration?
Prevention is always less expensive.
Well, so but the question by what, is there a way to measure by what magnitude?
Well, I think that's what we went over that night, was basically if we were going to just lay, or, you know, what do you call it, overlay, lay a mill
overlay versus
versus a full thing, that was the discussion we had. So one was like 5 years, you know, basically, or 25 years. They don't have the new scope of work for the new additions, and I think 59 million is absolutely that's never gonna pass.
Well, no, and I think what Adam was sort of referring to was, again, sort of picking and choosing those things that may.
The items that are in priority two that are like first year, you said you have a range 1 to 5 years. Those things that are in 1 year, it's gonna be a problem. Can we address, is it worth looking at addressing those now? Because in the long run, we're gonna pay more for them. Like what would that add to this, or already 39 million?
And I think that was exactly, I think the feedback that we took, speaking for Tony a little bit and Carrie, is we came in thinking that 39.9 was the high. The board seemed to show some appetite for at least looking into something bigger. Adam, because he couldn't be here, actually expressed that in writing. So when we went back, we've been kind of discussing this obviously since then. The first thing we wanted to show was the tax cap impact, because I think we mentioned it, but I don't think we had numbers to make that as clear as what the impact's going to be. We had talked about, you have a cap, whatever you do is going to add to that cap, and if you go below it, you're taking money out of the general fund. Because once you approve, you put this out to the voters and they approve it, once you've done that, that portion of the money from the tax cap has to fund the capital project, so you're actually cutting your general fund if you don't go to the cap. So that's why we went to this, and Carrie did a great job of giving you the number of what is that number. To your point, Jesse, 100% going to be at the cap. Harder to sell to the community that the cap is, in the, the one example, 6.01, but under the cap. Everything we say is going to be, we're at 5.20. but it's under the cap. You lose that message of under the cap when you're going at it 5 or 6 or 7%, especially if people around you are going in at 1 or 2%. So we wanted to show you what the real numbers of that were. And then there's way too much, this is I think Tony's point when we talked, there's been a great deal of analysis that's gone into the 19 to 29, 39 for the work that Tony's done, work with Aaron and Billy, the work that's also been done by fiscal advisors to make that a much more solid number. Anything beyond that is sort of a guesstimate at this point, because you pick 10 things on that list, that priority 2 list, they're not equal in terms of aidability, right? If you pick 7 of the 10 or 8 of the 10 or all 10, but you pick these 10, it's going to change that number. So what we wanted to do was just show you what does a number look like. Again, very kind of broad. If you really had an appetite to go above 39.9, what would it look like when you do that?
I understand, but I think, I think the thought is, if we don't address those things, at some point, it's gonna cost more, so we're trying to be fiscally responsible by taking more now, so it costs less over the years. But I get this too, and I still think we can say we're at the tax levy cap. It's a formula, we follow it, and we looked at the history of what people were projecting. I think we can sell the 5.2, not a problem. But I think it's also worth noting that we've had years where we were double digits and it passed. So, but I'm also worried about I just understand that Adam's thinking of, if we do something now, it's gonna cost less in the long run. And that's a good thought. It's a good thought, but we also need to balance that with the community and what they're willing to support.
I had some clarifying points that I don't think we've raised yet, that I think are important.
Yes, but we need you on mic so that you're on.
Sure.
Here.
Where?
Right there. Here, come over here.
Oh.
Saturday Night Live.
Bring over there. too.
Podium, probably.
Okay,
Easier.
yeah, that's
Easier? Just a couple other clarifying points that can go into this consideration. First, the point that will cost escalate over time, will cost grow. Yeah, yes, of course they do. Everything has an inflationary factor to it, and that's ever present. But so does aid, by the way. So aid also mirrors the cost inflation. So dollar for dollar, that may or may not be compensated, but let's assume that it's near it, because that's what the formula is supposed to do. So state aid increases actually monthly depending on cost factors. But more importantly, there's a huge bite into what's called incidental cost allowances that is related to site work. It's the type of classification that the state ed puts on regarding site work. So we're consuming a huge amount of that in the 39.9 and below, all the items related to site work that we spent so much time talking about on Thursday. There's a rule within state education department about resetting that maximum cost allowance for incidental expenses, and that resets every 5 years. One of the reasons most districts don't take these huge bites at the apple is they give the opportunity for the reset of incidental aid every 5 years. So separating projects into tranches, so to speak, and a lot of school districts do that. They'll do 1 in year 1, 1 in year 5, 1 in year 10 to break up, or in some sequence to break that up. So that gives the opportunity for the maximum cost allowances to reset and get more aid, more value for your dollar. And that's something that I think the district should think about when they look at some of the larger investments going beyond that 39.9, is there may be opportunity to actually get more paid for by the state and less in local share by giving the opportunity to reset that incidental cost allowance.
Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if I could play devil's advocate on that, we have a governor who has expressed under multiple occasions that her intention is to reduce education funding. Her priorities are not educating or providing education funding for the children of the state. So while it would be nice to think that aid reimbursement would increase with time, she's actually given
verbal declaration that she does not intend to increase education aid. So I'm not super hopeful that we're gonna be seeing a lot of increases anywhere in that regard. As it relates to increasing above the 39.9, because we've got the priority ones, and there was some discussion centered around that extremely conservative approach that has gotten us to this point in the past. So I don't want to propose anything below just making sure we cover all of the priority ones, because that is my baseline. Because like I said, you're either gonna pay for it or you're gonna pay for it and you're still gonna have to do the repairs, because there will be consequences for letting it go. But I understand Adam's perspective about adding a little padding in there to try and get some of the priority twos done so that they don't bite us in the butt later. And while the thought that we might have some increase in aid down the line, I'm certainly not gonna hold my breath on that.
Michelle, I just.
I just want to go on the record that I was not for going above the 39. I think it all needs to be done at the 39, just because I think that the life length of the project would make more sense and fiscally responsible to fully restore and complete it rather than just patching it, so to say, in regular people terms. So I don't know if we're voting on that in July, but I just wanted to make my voice heard on that.
I guess I have a question to clarify something you said, Tony. You said that aid will also grow. Is that the percentage of aid, the percent we get at 79, or just because of, is the percentage, will the percentage grow, or will, how does that work? I guess I don't understand.
Those are good questions. The percent may or may not change. The district, the 77.9% is a measure of the district's general wealth, and that's how that's set. The cost allowance, the construction cost allowance, which is also a part of how SED calculates the aid that we receive, that changes based on the cost of goods and services that are set by, I think, Department of Labor does that, and they census that every month and they update. There's a table that's used. So that's arithmetic. It's not a policy change. It's just the way that they compute. So every month there's a readjustment, and when you submit your final project for approval, it's when they lock those numbers in. That's the baseline. So I'm not speaking to the 77.9% change. That may or may not change, but it's the monthly index and cost index. That's what I was speaking to. The more important point that I was trying to make, though, is about the reset of the incidental cost allowance. So every building has both construction and incidental cost allowances that are set based on the students' load that are in the building and the type of building that it is. And without getting super complex, that number gets set. And when you start a capital project, you eat away at that number. And then every 5 years, if you do significant capital improvements, it resets. And that's the piece I was talking about. That's the big gain back. It's a reset of that incidental cost aid, and it resets on every one of the buildings. And it's a huge benefit that spacing your projects gives you the opportunity to recoup that. That's what I was speaking to.
Thank you.
It always goes up, it doesn't get reset down.
No, it's just a restoration of calculation.
Yeah, I hear what Adam's saying, but you also only have what you have. And, you have what you have.
So do we have to do something? We don't have to do something.
No.
Okay.
Tonight was, we had the workshop. Today was just kind of a placeholder discussion item before the vote. So we kind of spread it out over the 3 workshop discussion with the vote planning people. Well, July.
So we will have to do something in July.
So, yeah. In order to stay on the timeline that we're on.
Right. Got it.
Which serves us in terms of the workflow. Staying on the time, not having it roll out this fall. All right. If we are all good with the capital project discussion, we can move on to policy, everyone's favorite topic. We're good? Okay. 14A, first reading, policy 5300.20, safety helmet requirement for districts Alpine ski program. Discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to waive second reading and adopt as written.
Thank you, Megan. Yes, second. Michelle, discussion, elements on fast-moving children. Jim, what do you want to give a little context?
Yeah, the only reason I wanted to make sure we put this back on is the district a long time ago had a ski club due to a unfortunate situation with an injury that led to the district getting rid of ski club. It's been proposed to bring it back. It started out with student interest as all of our clubs. So we've been kind of going through the process with that. It went to our ECCA, our Extracurricular Clubs and Advisories Committee. There was support there. We looked into some of the concerns. Insurance, Carrie's looked at that. There's no additional insurance required or needed. Talked to Mr. Keeley about supervision and club running and operation. So we've addressed some of those things. So we're moving this along, and we rescinded this policy fairly recently. So before we made a final decision, we wanted to make sure the board wanted to reapprove, I guess, this policy, and also, I guess, kind of by default, is in favor of a ski club to some degree.
Bearing in mind approving this policy doesn't make the ski club,
They're not one and the same, but wanted to,
but they're,
as part of that discussion, just make sure that the board was aware of the ski club. We did also look into whether or not other high schools have it. Heath reached out, and generally, it was certainly, yes, the ones that got back to them have ski clubs. So,
I'm personally in favor of our kids wearing helmets. Karen, Megan's motion to waive second reading and adopt this as written is on the floor. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Nobody against, no abstentions. 14B, policy 6000 fiscal management goals, first reading discussion. Megan.
I'd like to make a motion to waive second reading and adopt as written.
Any second on that? Anyone? Jackie, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting policy 6000 as written? That's unanimous.
Can I just, I'd like to make a motion to adopt C through K, waive second reading and adopt as written, as long as no one has any comments related to C through K.
Can you do C through G? So we can't rescind?
Oh, yes, okay.
So C through G.
I'd like to make a motion to waive second reading on C through G and adopt as written.
Jackie seconds. Any discussion? Any discussion on this? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of adopting C through G as written, that's unanimous. Okay, we have 14H, Jesse.
I just make a motion to rescind policies 6248, 6249, 6621, and 9270.1 regulations.
And Megan seconds. Linda, you got that? Any discussion on rescinding these? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor? That is also unanimous. Good job, guys. There's some informational items on there. We're going to talk about that. I still have no blue sheets for public comments. We're on to board member reports. Somebody hear from Grace for the last time.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Franchini and Mr. Keelis for this opportunity and obviously the board. It's been a really cool experience. It's really been an honor and to just see kind of what goes into working with the district was really cool and I learned a lot. So thank you.
I wanted to thank Grace. I think she's fantastic. We learned a lot together at this table and I will miss you next year. So, and yeah, thanks for a great school year. I guess this is our final meeting, thankfully, for the school year. It was a lot to learn, but it was great. So that's it.
just echo what Michelle said. Definitely a steep learning curve in the first year, but worth it. Thank you to Grace for giving us so much of your time. Good luck next year at Lemoyne.
I just want to say again, thank you guys for everything. It's been a great 3 years. I also just wanted to say thank you to Grace. Good luck with everything. And I also just wanted to recognize the fact that we're recognizing all our student athletes now with their signing days. D3 athletes in the past were included. My daughter is one of those, and I'm super happy that now everybody is being recognized. So.
I've spoken a lot, so I don't really need to say a ton, but I want to thank Jackie again for how much time and energy and dedication she has put into her role as a board member. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and I'm going to miss serving with you, so don't be a stranger. I want to thank Tony and the other folks that have worked so hard to put together the capital project proposal for us to work on. It's super important to our students in the district that we move forward with a project that's going to be meaningful and have an outcome that the community can be proud of. And I want to thank all of the administrators for this school year. It's been a great task to undertake. Every year it gets a little bit more challenging. But these last meetings are really the reminder of, all of the fun parts, right? We get to honor our retirees, we get to honor our tenured teachers. We get to go with graduation and watch all of our graduates walk the stage, which is one of my favorite things. Just to see their beaming faces up close, it is a wonderful experience. And I would just like to congratulate everyone on a successfully completed year, almost.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Grace. And I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody said because I agree with it all. I just want to point out one thing in the silent celebration of success. I think it went flew under the radar screen almost, like all of that stuff does, because it was really long and there was so much stuff packed into that celebration of success. But just wanted to acknowledge the work of our bus garage mechanics because we had a 98.6 bus passage rate. And I think that's pretty impressive. They do a fantastic job and we appreciate them. See you all at graduation.
We will miss you, Grace. Someone's got big shoes to fill next year. We will definitely miss you, Jackie. You're just awesome perspective. I'm not gonna go on for a long time. I just wanted to say, just that the consent agenda we passed held a ton of personnel and programming stuff that it's just amazing work. As we go into the summer, I just wanna, there's a lot of families who depend on the school in the summer, whether it's academic or food insecurity. And I want to thank the administration ahead of time for the work that they do over the summer. We're all sort of going off and going to summer camp and doing whatever. People are here working, making sure that the kids who need attention over the summer are getting it. And that's, not only is that important, but it's actually, I like to joke how I don't get out much, but I got out enough to meet people through my work who actually, when I told them that I was an AP, from Skoharie County, Northern Saratoga County, that our food service, our summer programming and our summer food service programming, in particular our backpack programming, is outstanding in the capital region and beyond, again, up in Skoharie County, that they know about the work that you guys are doing, enough to tell me about it, that it's held up as sort of an example of how to do things right. And I just want to take a moment to thank you guys for that. Every student, every day, even when they're not in here in front of us all the time. So every day includes summer, which is almost here. That's it. So thanks, guys. Jackie made a motion. Megan seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? All right, that passed unanimous from Linda.
Linda, can I take
Did we
this?
do we'll get it before?
Yes,
we did.
You did. Mine now. You stole it.
No, that's-